Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast all about thinking better thoughts so you, our listeners, can get better results in your life. I'm your co-host, Shawn Foyer, here today with my co-host, the amazing, the beautiful, the radiant, the smart, the powerful.
Keep going.
What else?
Kaitlin Foyer.
All right, Kaitlin. Well, thanks for joining me here today.
Hey, anytime. Thank you for joining me.
You know, I had a goal quite a few years ago that I wanted to do a podcast. And
I remember.
It's pretty amazing because when I set that goal, did I have any idea how to do a podcast?
No, you just said, I want to start a podcast.
Yeah. And maybe we could dive into goal setting today, because I know over the last few years, you and I have both got really good at goal achieving, right?
Yeah. Huge,
not just setting the goals, but achieving the goals. But yeah, it was not that long ago. Said I wanted a podcast. Didn't really do anything as far as taking massive action, which we can talk about, and had a client at the time introduce me to a studio when we started recording. And that's been, 3 podcasts ago, because it's been an evolution.
Yes,
but
it has been.
I set it as a goal, put it in my mind, didn't know how I was going to achieve it. And here we are today. I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful to be here in this studio recording another episode of a podcast, which at one point was just a goal, just an idea I had of, hey, what's something I could do to share my message, to get more people thinking about mindset, shifting their mindset. And here we are. So
yeah. And it was one of my goals at the time was getting you your podcast, watching you do that, supporting you through that behind the scenes, and then going, wait, I want to be on this podcast. I want to do this together. Like,
is that how you got here? I didn't know that.
It was one of my goals.
That's how you got here.
That
you just made it a goal.
One of my goals.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty great. And I've always been taught to set goals. I mean, ever since, you're a baby, you unintentionally set goals. You see someone walk and you're like, I want to do that. You see someone run, I want to do that. You see someone do something, you want to do that. As you get to be a little bit older, you see someone do something, you're like, oh, now that's my goal. I want to do that, right? And always been able to do that. And then it got a little bit more intentional as I got older, started my career. But I was always taught to set SMART goals.
What's a SMART goal?
Specific.
Okay.
Measurable.
Okay.
Attainable.
Okay.
Relevant.
Okay.
And time-bound.
Time-bound.
And so I was always taught, make sure to set SMART goals. But it was always kind of there was always a disconnect, because then I was also told, never, you always need to, hit your glass ceiling, break through your glass ceiling. And I would hold myself back and think, well, if I'm creating these SMART goals,
it's got to be measurable.
It's got to be attainable. It's got to be relevant. It's got to be time bound. How am I supposed to break through my glass ceiling?
Well, and I think, and we can talk a little bit about, there is a place for SMART goals, but I'm going to challenge, and listeners, if you're a SMART goal setter, I'm going to challenge your logic here and say a SMART goal is more like a to-do list.
100%. And that's how I viewed it. And it wasn't until I met you and was introduced at first to Bob Proctor and the A goal, B goal, C goal, right?
Yes.
Which I think is funny, because a beagle sounds like a dog, a seagull sounds like a bird, right? I always laugh at that. But A goal, B goal, C goal. And I even kind of fought that, because I thought, oh, your A goal should be your hardest one, because you always want an A, and grade is the best, things like that. But if you'll break down the A goal, C or B goal, C goal for our listeners, like you did for me, it was mind blowing to me. I was like, wait, yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I need.
Yeah. And, I'll never forget, because I started training and mentoring under Bob Proctor, and he had a whole program with different modules on the mind. But the first one was about goal setting. And, going into that, I had some mental blocks. I was like, oh my gosh, I know how to set SMART goals. The opposite of that is a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. You have no idea, right? And as I listened to Bob break it down for me, it just made sense. And I realized I'd spent most of my time thinking about small goals, SMART goals,
attainable goals,
things that really didn't challenge my mindset or challenge any of my paradigms I had set. So kind of breaks down like this. A goal is something you've done before, basically. An A goal is if you've been in good shape, you get out of shape, you want to get back, that's an A goal. If you've bought a certain type of car, it's time for a new one, you want to buy that same car, it's a goal, but it's an A goal. You already have done in the past, you know the steps, you have the belief. There's really no growth in you in trying to achieve an A-type goal.
It's just a checklist.
It's more like a to-do list, honestly. B goal, which is where most people spend a lot of their time if they set goals at all.
If they're goal achievers, right? This is like the majority of, I'll say even America.
Yeah.
You're really stretching yourself if you're creating a B goal, which is so funny.
And a B goal is something you've never done before, but at some level you can see a path. And this might fall into a SMART because it seems achievable.
Yes.
I've never done this before, but if I do A, B, C, or shouldn't use letters.
Step one, step two,
step
step
2, step 3, I'll accomplish this goal. That's a B goal.
You see that clear path to it. You haven't done it yet, but you know how you could do it.
Yeah. And again, there's no real growth in this. And you have to ask yourself, well, what's the point of setting goals? And I used to think, well, you set goals to achieve things, to get things done.
To check something off
And
your
Bob
list.
really challenged my mind. He said, no, the real reason we should set goals is for the growth. And I want you to think about that because when we're talking about growth, that's where the idea of the C goal. And a C goal is much bigger than an A because you've never done it before. It's much bigger than a B because you actually have no idea how you're going to do it. And this is going to challenge your thinking because why would you set a goal that you have no idea how you're going to accomplish? Because of the growth and the opportunities that will come to you in believing something's possible that you have no idea. And, originally I started this episode, a podcast. I mean, I know how to talk. I didn't know anything about recording.
Nope.
I didn't know anything about the platforms. I didn't know how to build a studio. I didn't know how to do it, but I'd already taken Bob's training and I was actually teaching people to set C goals. And really a podcast wasn't fully a C goal, but it was a type of a C goal because I had no idea how I was going to do it. I set it out there. I set the intention. I started working. I was believing. I literally, in my mind, could see myself in a studio and it came to me. I didn't even do much to make my first podcast. I was invited to a studio that all I had to do was show up and they did all the work for me. And again, fast forward now almost 5 years later, we're in a studio where we just show up and all of the heavy lifting is done by our producers that do all the work behind the scenes. So again, C goals. Start thinking along C goals. What is a C goal? It's something that you really, really want that you have no idea how it's possible. But if you got it, it would make a difference in your life.
Well, that was what was so earth-shattering for me because I'm a dreamer. Like I can visualize things that I'm like, I have no idea how that's going to happen, but I want it. Like that vision was planted in me for a reason. And so the C goal really was like, this is speaking my language. Like this is mind-blowing to me because this is what has been missing in my life. And then once I started setting C goals, I have quite a few, I wanted to go back into B goals really, really fast because I have a fear of failure.
And you want to know how to do it too,
I want
right?
to know how to do it. I wanted it to be specific. I wanted it to be measurable. I wanted it to be attainable. I wanted it to be relevant.
What about a time frame?
And
so many people get caught up on the time frame. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but
yeah. And so it was going from a B goal to a C goal is really scary for a lot of people because like me, I love checking things off a list. I love exceeding expectation. And so if I set a goal that I already know how to get to, I know me personally, I'm going to go above that. I'm going to go above that 100% every single time. And setting a C goal means that sometimes I'm only going to hit it at 50%.
Yeah.
Sometimes at 20%.
And it might take a while to get there.
And it takes a while to get there. And I remember the first C goal I hit, I couldn't even come up with the number. You helped me with that number. And you were like, and it's so funny, I laugh at it now, but it was, $22,000 a month. And I had no idea how I would ever do that in the job I was in. There's probably a way to do it. I actually knew people that had done it, but for me, I was like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that's going to happen. And then it happened. And I was like, okay. Not the first month. First month, I got halfway there. Second month, I hit that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's time to really dive into this. It's time to really start setting those huge goals and not be scared that maybe I only hit 20 or 30 or 50% of that because I know me, I'm going to hit 100% as long as I believe it.
Yeah. And so listeners, and whatever you've done in the past, if you've never set a goal, this is a good time to really think about it. And even back to SMART goals or A and B type goals, statistically, if you write a goal down, you have almost a 50% better chance of accomplishing it just by writing it down. So, that's the first step is take some action here. If there's something, and for our clients, when you say goals, some people spin out on, I don't know what I want, right?
That's why it's the first.
And we have a whole module about that.
What do you want?
But we kind of give you a framework. So as you're thinking about this, use our framework. And it's called the Power Trifecta. And the Power Trifecta consists of 3 points: better finances, better health and wellness, and better relationship with self. And I believe in having C goals in all 3 areas. But think about your money. I mean, if you decide to set a goal to make more money than you've ever made, or to invest more money than you've ever invested, or to even just have more money in a bank account for a little while than you've ever had. If you know the steps, or if you've already done it, it's an A or a B goal. What we're trying to get you here is something you have no idea. And I don't go all, Grant Cardone 10X on you. We want to take baby steps in this. So think of the most you've ever made and maybe double it and say, what if I doubled my income this year? And hopefully, if that's a big enough goal for you, you're going to say, I don't know how that's possible. Mm-hmm. You're on the right track.
Yes.
You're on the right track. Health and wellness, whether it's having the energy to do something you haven't done before, having the strength and agility, or maybe getting just to a level of physical fitness, whatever it is, think of what would be a C-type goal in your health and wellness. And then relationships, one of my favorite. And this is, if you're somebody who's single and looking for a relationship, think of not just one that will meet your needs, like an A-B type relationship, but really, what's the relationship of your dreams? What's something that you have no idea how you could create? And even if you're already in a relationship, the goal to making a better relationship is working on you. So what version of you could you show up as that would create a relationship that's a C-type goal? Something that you have no idea how it's possible, but if you achieved it, it would make a huge impact and a huge difference in the quality of your life.
Yeah. And it's amazing because we have clients that do this, right? Like we've had Daniel Beatty on as a guest.
Yeah.
And his wife, Megan, had this goal. She's like, I have this goal that my husband is going to have his own business that he runs completely without me, that he just does, and he steps into his own power and does that. And I remember at the time she was crying and she was like, I don't know how that will ever be possible. At that time, things were really rocky in their relationship. And I know she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but today, that's all come true. And it's because she just leaned into that C goal, not just for herself, but for him too, because of their partnership, because of their relationship. And it really
that's
is
kind of
amazing.
a unique story, because usually I say you can't set a C goal for another person, but if it's
through her working on herself,
yes,
it allowed him to do so from her belief, that borrowed belief. Mm-hmm. It allowed that transference of belief. And so it really is so amazing when we do this. And it can be scary though. I do want to hit on that, because C goals, like I said, they can be scary, but usually what's scary is we're afraid to say what we want. We base what we want on what we think we can have, what we've been told we should want, on the self-limiting beliefs at some level that we've been raised in. And so it's, I remember I just said, my goal is just to be happy. And you were like, what does that look like? And I go back to even Impact, the thing that we met, where someone the only word we could say to each other back and forth, me and this, it was Tatiana, in this partnership together, we'd say, what do you want? 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 We do that now with clients, right? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Until it was like, I was bawling saying what that looked like for me, because I had never allowed myself to dream that. And even if I had, I'd never vocalized it.
Yeah. You were never saying what you wanted. You were saying what you think you can have. And if you go back, A goal, it's what you think you can have because you've already done it before. B goal, it's what you think you can have because you already know the steps. You already know it's possible. And using the idea of our programming in action, Megan Beatty, in one of our modules in group calls, she shared a picture of a racehorse tied to a plastic chair.
Yeah.
And I want you to think about that, because a racehorse, or even a circus elephant back in the day, was tied to a little rope. And because it was programmed as a small baby elephant or small baby horse, it let this rope hold it back. And I think for so many of us, what's programmed into us from birth until the point we're setting this goal, we're on a rope. And A and B goals are basically inside of that rope, because we can see the path, or we've done it before. So we're not challenging our belief system. We're not challenging our mind to expand and grow. And when we get into a true C goal, we're going to have to break the rope. Yeah. We're going to have to go somewhere we've never been. We're going to have to be facing our fears and going to the unknown. And, one of the guidances Bob Proctor gave me when I was learning from him was, when you get to a true C-type goal, it's outside your programmed comfort zone. It should do two things equally. Mm-hmm. two things equally. It should scare the shit out of you, and it should excite you beyond measure. And I love that. And you and I both, and you help me with that too, because Kaitlin will tell you, what's the difference between fear and excitement?
It's the exact same physiological response in the body. It's your attitude that changes that. And that's so true. I mean, you could sit there and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And like your blood boils up and you get hot and flushed and like it get tingly, right? Because you're just so excited. What happens when you're nervous or you're scared? Same freaking feeling, right? And so this is something I use with my athletes. I use it with our clients. I use it with our children. I use it with you. Like, no, you're not nervous or scared. You're actually excited. And that shifts something. It's like a little switch goes off in your brain where all of a sudden you're like, you're right. I am excited. This is exciting. This is easy. This is fun. You tell yourself that over and over and over, and it reprograms your mind to not shy away from that or run from that feeling, to embrace it and let it be rocket fuel for you.
Well, and I love too when you're thinking about a C goal, if you're excited, that's going to help you get it. But if you take that fear, and like Kaitlin said, it's the same feeling, but on a deeper level, what's causing that fear? That's what's holding you back. Whatever you think you're afraid of, it's probably not true. It's probably not yours. And as you shift from fear to excitement and then do some work to remove the limiting belief that's creating the fear, what if I fail? There's no such thing as failure as long as you keep going. What if I'm too old, too young, too tall? Whatever it is, identify that. You can turn the balance of fear and excitement for this huge goal into pure excitement because we're eliminating the limiting beliefs. And again, why do we set goals? And it's funny, I believe the name of this episode is Goal Digger, right?
Digger.
Because we're having you dig in on you. In order to get a big goal, you're going to have to do some digging. And as you dig in, there's going to be growth that happens. And so for me, when we talk about goal, it's away from the traditional, I set a goal to get something or to accomplish something. That's all fine and good. You've been getting things and accomplishing things your whole life. But if there's no growth, what's the point? And so for us, the reason I'm encouraging people to set C-type big goals that they have no idea, that they're letting go of the how, is the growth inside of you it will take to accomplish it. And that's where the true value is.
Who is it that said like the goal isn't to make $1 million, it's who you become?
Yeah. Jim Rohn has a quote. It's not the journey to be a millionaire. It's the person you become along the way.
Yes.
And that's the cool thing too, is because once we have the growth, you know, I'm a person that's been through some challenges where I've lost some things financially, personally. You can take my stuff away, but you can't take the growth away. And that's one reason I'm such a diehard about every single day leaning into my big goal, my C goal. I have no idea how I'm going to get it. I just know I'm going to do it. It's kind of like walking for me. I've spent enough time planting that seed of that goal in my mind over and over and over and over until my mind believes it's done. Now it's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Maybe we can wrap a little bit and talk about, you know, it's a cybernetic mechanism that works in the mind, right?
Yeah, please hit on that because there's a whole book on this, right?
Yeah. Maxwell Maltz has a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which is all about, you know, psycho being neuro or the mind and cybernetic being the mechanism, not only in humans, but in any goal-seeking object. You know, a heat-seeking missile is off course 90% of the way to its target, but it hits its target. It's because it's got a mechanism that whenever it's getting off course, it's taking it back into alignment with this is the goal. And inside ourselves as human beings, our mind is programmed to seek things. You know, you think about this, the basic programs we have. You know how to eat a meal without even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. You know how to drive your car. You know, as a small child, as a toddler, you decided you wanted to walk and you figured it out along the way. It was a goal that was set in the mind. And so when we're talking about these C-type goals, we're asking you to set something that you have no idea how it's possible, that excites and scares you equally, and set it in your mind as a goal. And once it becomes part of your mind as a goal, the cybernetic mechanism side of you is going to go to work. And this is where I think it's easier. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to reach maybe B goals that all I knew how to do was hustle, to work harder, to try harder.
Yeah.
And the problem is if I'm working against my belief system, against some limits, it's hard to outwork your limits. It's almost impossible to outwork your limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And that's where you fall into a lot of doubt. Right? Mm-hmm. Can I do this?
Yeah.
But if you're going to doubt anything, it's like Bob Proctor said, if you're going to doubt anything, doubt your limits.
Yes.
And those limits are typically not even ingrained into you by you. They're ingrained into you by family members, by coaches, by teachers, by siblings, by whoever, right?
Yeah.
And so once you can actually look in the mirror, like past that reflection, look deep and go, is this true? is this real? Is this mine? No, it's not. And I can create whatever my mind can come up with.
Yeah.
It's really that easy. It's so empowering, and it's something not taught to the general masses. It's something that 2% of the population is aware of?
Not even aware of, but is willing to do. Even if they're made aware, you could have a room full of people, say 20 people, and share this information. Even right now, you listening to it, a certain amount of you aren't going to do anything with this information because 98% of you is resistant to the idea of change being easier than working hard. That's, you talk about the biggest blocker to goal digging and goal achieving is just programmed pattern set points.
Creating it in the physical, right? Like we get so caught, goals are physical things, right?
For the most part,
For the most part, but a C goal challenges you and says, we're taking it out of the physical into your mind, and what are you going to create with that?
And most people, and even you listening, you might say, well, how am I going to do it? That's the block number one.
Let go.
You don't have to know how at the moment.
In fact, you shouldn't.
And the problem is, if you think about it and okay, maybe I want it. It's not a goal planned in my mind yet. It's just an idea. When I go from an idea to the how, if the how's challenging, if I don't know the how, if I can't figure it out.
If I'm not sure,
if even diving into the how is more work than I have belief, which when you first have the idea of a seagull, there's not a lot of belief there.
Not yet.
Again, you don't believe it's possible because you don't know how. The work that we do on goal digging to make it goal setting is taking something that's a C-type goal that you have no idea how it's possible and then holding it in your mind every single day. Our goal affirmation process is 5 minutes a day of a goal that you have no idea how it's going to happen, but every day for 5 minutes, you say a statement, you close your eyes, you visualize it's already happened, it's already happened, it's already happened, and you do it day after day, 30, 60, 90 days. At that point, your mind's starting to take it down and saying, okay, Shawn's serious about this, Kaitlin's serious about this, I better help them get it because they already think it's true. And one other nuance to the mind. The human mind can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And it's always using reality as its basis, going to the outside world. Shawn says he's a millionaire. No, he's not. He's broke. Shawn says he's a millionaire. No, he's not. He's broke. But I imagined being a millionaire, being in the happiest, healthiest version of me, being in this love. I imagined it when I didn't know how it was possible. And when I closed my eyes and used my imagination and pretend it's already happened, present tense, see it, hear it, feel it, your mind can't tell the difference. My mind couldn't tell the difference. And I did it often enough that my mind started to believe it was already true, even though there was no physical evidence. And once the mind believes it to be true, it acts as if. And again, this is the coolest part. This isn't you waking up, pushing yourself to massive action. This is you waking up, having your mind push you to massive action because it thinks it's already done and it thinks you better get to work stepping into it because it's already created that reality inside of you.
And that's a really great point to hit on because when you create a seagull in your mind, you start reverse engineering it subconsciously, right? Because it does take A goals and B goals to actually hit your C goal. And so I have many C goals, right? And I've this is something interesting too, is I've had many C goals over the years that then come true. So then they become B goals.
Yeah.
And then they just become A goals. And so now it's time to come up with a new bigger C goal. And that has happened over and over and over. My inner blueprint goal that I say every day has been re-engineered multiple times because it was no longer a C goal.
You could either see the path or you'd already completed it. Yeah.
Yep. And so right now mine is something that I have not seen the path. I still don't know how it's going to happen, but every single day I'm taking steps towards it because my mind knows that these smaller things are going to get me there.
Yeah. And I don't know, listeners, I've got this feedback from even clients that I work with. This might sound exhausting. Like, when are you going to stop? Why are you always pushing yourself for growth? And I just want you to think about it. You are always growing. You're either growing or you're dying. The cells in your body are either reproducing for growth or they're reproducing with disease and working their way towards actually ultimately death. I mean, I remember Bob Proctor talking about if you think you ever stop growing or stop dying, think about when you actually do die and they put you in a box in the ground. A little morbid thought, but he's like, they fill you with chemicals so you don't continue to decompose to dirt. I mean, our physical body is either growing or it's dying.
On a cellular level.
Which is a result of our mind. So if your mind isn't growing, it's not staying the same.
Nope, it's
You can be
dying.
in a comfort zone in a job for 20 years thinking you're just maintaining.
You're not.
You're going backwards. You're going backwards. And I know for me, I got to a pretty good level of success early on in my career and early on in life. And I think I just stopped growing. And I thought I was just maintaining. And in reality, I was actually going backwards. And, one of my, goal statements and missions is to impact millions of people worldwide with this material. I don't want to find millions of people in struggle. I want to find millions of people that are doing really good, but then I help them not get stuck in good, because again, it's not exhausting. It's actually inspiring to wake up every day knowing you're working towards more, knowing you're working towards, growth. And we take it, goal digger is a growth mindset. It's like, you know what? Every single day I know I can be a little bit better than I was yesterday. And, to me, it might sound exhausting. It's actually a lot less work than continuing to struggle and work as hard as you can with a limited set point, limited
because
mindset.
it's not all physical. It's through the mind. And it's such a really great point there that you said. And I really love where this takes you, because when you start to really hit those C goals, or start to not hit them, but make a C goal, things in your life that you thought were just like that you accepted as normal, you realize, wait a minute, this shouldn't be normal. This isn't my normal. Like the people that you spend time around. If you are setting these big, scary goals, I know that when I first started, and even still to this day, I have people in my life that I can't share those with. They look at me like I'm crazy, right? But those aren't the people that I spend the most time around. I always say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And if you're surrounding yourself with people, like you don't have anyone in your life that you can share these C-type goals with, you don't have a friend circle. You have a cage.
That's true. That's a great point, Kaitlin.
It really stretches you to reevaluate everything in your life and go, okay, and sometimes this does happen with people. The people that got you to where you are aren't always the people that are going to take you to where you're going.
No. When it is a struggle. One of the things we create inside of our communities is mastermind groups. And these mastermind groups, it's a place people can share their dreams. They can share their wins without judgment, without jealousy, without people trying to hold them back. So
because it just inspires the other people. I know in our women's group, for example, we have women share their big goals and their big wins. And if it triggers someone in a negative way, I go right to that person and I go, what does that bring up in you? And why? Let's talk about it. And then that gets to shatter their self-limiting belief and give them permission to start thinking bigger and to get out of comparison. And, one affirmation that I say that I've always lived, and it's very important, is I celebrate the success of others and it helps me with mine.
And that's a hard one for a lot of people. And in fact, if you're listening right now, you might be thinking, I know so many of us, myself included, would get to be doing pretty well, but would always beat myself up because there were people around me in business. Oh, look at their business compared to mine. Oh, look at their house. Look at their lifestyle. And comparison is the thief of all joy. Like you get caught in comparison, you're robbing yourself of any joy. And if you flip that, and like Kaitlin said, you start celebrating the wins of others, you actually start to get in their energy.
Yep.
You really do. I know, in our small groups and in some of our masterminds, we've seen people that were maybe struggling a little bit, maybe having some jealousy for somebody else in the group that was winning, let go of that, release it, lean into celebrating. And think about that. You're getting your ass kicked and celebrating someone else winning. That can be challenging, right? That can be challenging.
Depending on who you are, yes. Extremely.
Yeah, for me, it was really challenging because I went through some of my hardest times with people that I actually had helped that were actually winning at a way higher level than I ever thought possible for them. And it felt like sometimes it was being rubbed in my face. Whether it was or not isn't important. It's the way it was making me feel. And when I shifted that and learned how, even as I started, this company we run, it was an idea. It was a C goal. I had no idea after over 30 years in the home improvement business, I was going to change and start from scratch a consulting business that was just based on mindset. I had no idea how it was possible.
Nope.
I had no idea how I'd be on this podcast with this beautiful woman who's now my wife, talking about living like the life I live today was a C goal. I had no idea how it was possible. And when I first started, I was actually helping people that were way more successful than me. And I was pretty vulnerable and open about it. They knew I was still single. They knew I was still struggling financially. They knew my business had been around for 3 months. And I learned And this was the craziest thing is they were already successful when they met me. Using my information that I haven't even made myself that successful yet, I was able to make them more successful than they've ever been. And as I learned to celebrate it with them, it took me with them. If I would have been caught up in comparison, I mean, think about that. I wouldn't even want to go to work if I had to go coach somebody who is making more money than me, or at the time I was single, they were married and in a happy relationship. If I'd have been jealous and in comparison and any of that, it would have blocked my journey.
The company would have failed.
I would have tanked. And I learned early and often in this mindset work, the key is to celebrate others. If I see somebody else winning, and I hate these words, but you hear it all the time. Oh, it must be nice, right?
It is.
Well, first things to know is almost every success story that I've ever been a part of or ever heard much of the backstory, there's always a bunch of struggle that you don't see, that you don't hear about. So for me, when I see somebody winning, my first thought is good for them. They must have done something hard, something challenging to get there. And the opposite of that is people assume it was easy. People assume it was handed to them. Don't make that assumption. For the most part, there's a rare case, I think, of maybe a trust fund or a lotto winner, but most of the people you see that are successful had to work really hard to get there. And if you give grace to that and give credit to that and then celebrate with them, it actually inspires you to do more. And the other thing is, if it's possible for them, that should be proof. That should be proof that it could be possible for you too.
Well, and that's what I love. I think, especially we've had a shift in our client base and it continues to, right? Like, and I speak to this, one perfect example for me is Becca Erdman.
Mm-hmm.
That woman is a goal getter, right?
Yes.
She is. And the other day she posted on her social media, just like on her story, this beautiful Aston Martin. And I've never wanted an Aston Martin before. And now that's one of my goals. I want that car she posted. And because she's a client and a friend of mine, I wasn't like, oh, of course Becca wants that. Like, blah, blah. I was like, hell yeah. If Becca wants that, I can want that too. And I thank you, Becca, for inspiring me to do that. And so many women do that for me. And so many men do that for me that we work with. They come up with goals like Daniel Beatty. Again, I'll speak on him. He has a goal to own a castle. Everybody should be dreaming so big that things that people would look at and laugh at you for, you're like, no. I want that because I want it, right? I can have it because I know I deserve it. You have to have that belief, and you should surround yourself with people. And luckily, we get to, the people that we spend the most time with are crazy successful, are opening their minds, are pushing their limits, are inspiring me every single day.
Well, and I love too, and if you're listening to this, it may be a thought for you. And I know a lot of people, well, why would somebody want a castle? If they have that much money, they should just be helping people. And this is where, with mindset and see goals, you can't get sick enough to help the sick. You can't get poor enough to help the poor. But you can get happy, healthy, full of self-love, full of financial abundance, where you can help more people. And I know with Daniel Beatty, when he gets his castle, it's because, I mean, he speaks at, addiction centers and people that need help with their mindset. If he owns that castle, it's not because he's sat around being a miser, counting his money. It's because he's been out in the world and being of service. And for anybody that works with us on goal setting, when we have you select a C goal, the first thing is we say, tell us what you want. And you get to decide what you want. Maybe that's a selfish part. I don't think it is. But not. That's what you want. The second part of any C goal is, what are you willing to give? What impact are you going to have on the world? If God graces you with the abundance and you become a steward of this wealth, how are you going to make this world a better place? In the product you sell, in the donations you make, in the employees' lives you benefit, in whatever it is. What do you want? What are you willing to give? And then you tie it back to, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, the person you get to become.
And most people, how you make it and how it makes you feel, it isn't about the money or the physical thing you're asking for. It's about the service and the impact and the growth, the person you get to become in order to accomplish that. That's the true give back, and that's the true feeling, is we are helping people build better versions of themselves so they have the time, they have the money, they have the energy to help other people. And we need more people like that in our lives. So, if every single one of us is in struggle and with our hands out, who's going to help us? Who's going to help us? The government? No. Yeah. Famous words of Ronald Reagan. The worst thing you can hear is, we're from the government, we're here to help you. No, we need more people. I mean, I work with powerful men, and every single one of them has a giving heart. And as they do better, they want to help more people. And Kaitlin works with a group of powerful women, the same mindset. The more we become, the more we can give.
And it's so true. I mean, for us personally, and I know so many of our clients share this goal, we have a $100 million goal. Do we know how we're going to get there? No, we don't yet. But we know to get there, we're going to make 100 millionaires to get there.
Yes.
We're not doing this for us. We're doing it for them. Our purpose is so much bigger than just Shawn or I. And it really is. And so as we wrap up this episode, you should have a C goal, not just for you, but for the impact it's going to make. Everybody should have a C goal in this life. Our world would be such a better world if everybody had a C goal, because again, it's not just about the stuff. It's about the person you become on that journey. And it's about the give back that you are able to provide through it.
Well, I guess since we're sharing our C goal here, it is to have a $100 million training and personal development organization that helps millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold people back, so more people may live their lives in freedom, abundance, fun, and love. And this is not a business we're building, it's a movement. And if you're listening to this podcast and that sounds interesting and you want to help us in that mission, if you want to support us, we do want to get to a point where we have 100 consultants teaching our material, and each one of them get to $1 million. Well, hey, there's a $100 million organization right there. But the most important part of that is I'm helping 100 speakers, coaches, mentors get to $1 million, and I'm benefiting their lives and I'm blessing their lives. In order to get that, they've all got a couple hundred clients themselves that they're bettering their lives, and those clients are taking it into their homes and into their business and bettering. Do you hear the idea here? Do you hear the ripple effect? This isn't a business. This is a movement, getting more people. This information isn't common knowledge that I can take the power of my mind. I can set a C goal. I can forget about the how, go to work on me, believe it's possible, change my thoughts, change my stories about what's possible for me. Just like learning to walk, I can make that $100 million goal or whatever you decide is your goal. And again, just taking care of your family at a survival level is not enough for you. I promise you. You deserve more than that. You deserve to not only take care of you and your family, but lots of families, lots of people. Like let's get some energy behind this movement.
Yes.
We want to help more people enjoy the ride. And the secret, the only thing holding all of us back, it's inside our own minds. It's a self-limiting belief.
That's it.
It's a comparison. It's a judgment. It's lack of love. It's scarcity. It's not enough time, not enough money. It's whatever it is. It's a story. It's not true, and it's not yours. So if this calls to you, subscribe to our podcast, please. Share the message, and if you want to get involved, reach out to us. We're here to make a difference. We're here to have impact. So
that's why we do what we do.
Any last thoughts for listeners?
I think that you concluded that beautifully.
We took it home. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And as always, go out there, think some better thoughts today, feel some better feelings, take some stronger actions, create better results all around you. And as always, enjoy the ride. It's a good one. Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life, and always remind you to enjoy the ride.